The Art of War by Sun Bin. Produced by Liang Gu. The Art of War, Calculation. Sun Tzu said, "War is a major national affair, a matter of life and death, a path to survival or destruction. It must be thoroughly studied. Therefore, we seek its essence by examining and calculating from 5 aspects. The first is Tao, the second is heaven, the third is earth, the fourth is general, and the fifth is Dharma." Tao is about ensuring that people are aligned with their leaders so they can be in harmony with heaven, which involves yin and yang. Hot and cold and 4 seasons. Earth refers to distance, danger and convenience, breadth and narrowness, life and death. Will embody wisdom, trust, faith, charity, courage and severity. The law covers regulations, official channels and major assessments. Every general should understand these 5 aspects. Those who understand will succeed, but those who do not understand will not succeed. Therefore, we evaluate by calculation and seek its essence, asking, who owns the Tao? Who has the capabilities? Who owns heaven and earth? Who enforces the law? Whose army is stronger? Whose soldiers are more elite? Who has clear rewards and punishments? From this, I know the outcome of victory or defeat. If the general follows my strategy, using it will lead to victory, keep him. If the general doesn't follow my strategy, using it will result in failure, fire him. Emphasis should be placed on enabling strategies to create momentum for external support. Motivation comes from leveraging the power of profit. War is a matter of deception. Therefore, when you have the ability, act like you are incompetent. When you are using it, act like you are not using it. When you are near, act like you are far away. When you are far away, act like you are near. Lure them with benefits, exploit their confusion, prepare when they are unprepared, avoid when they are strong, and disturb them when they are angry. Humiliate them when they are arrogant, drain them when they are relaxed, and separate them when they are close. Attack where they are not prepared, strike when they least expect it. This is a victory for military strategists. It should not be disclosed in advance. Before the battle, the winner makes more strategic calculations. The loser makes less strategic calculations. Victory comes from a lot of calculation, and defeat comes from a small amount, for those who don't calculate at all. Even more so. From this perspective, the outcome is clear. Battle Chapter. Sun Tzu said, "In the art of war, mobilizing 1,000 chariots, 1,000 carriages, and 100,000 heavily armed soldiers, and providing food for thousands of miles, the internal and external demand costs. The daily expenditure on supplies for hosting guests, materials for glue and paint, and maintenance of chariots and armor would reach 1,000 gold. Only in this way could an army of 100,000 be raised." In war, victory comes quickly, prolonged engagement dulls weapons. Weakening forces, while besieging cities drains resources. If the army is exposed for too long, the country will be short of supplies. When blunt weapons weaken sharp weapons and their strength is exhausted, feudal lords take advantage and even the wise cannot cope with the consequences. Therefore, it has been said that quick but clumsy action in war is better than clever long-term strategy. There has never been a case in history where a long war was beneficial to a country. Therefore, those who do not fully understand the dangers of war cannot fully grasp its benefits. A skilled commander utilizes his troops efficiently, avoids overdrafting, and does not hoard supplies for 3 years. They obtained their needs from the state and relied on their enemies for supplies to ensure that their armies were well fed. A country with few military resources faces distant supply lines, impoverishing its people, while those close to the military face high prices, draining the wealth of its people and forcing them to work. When the power is exhausted and the financial resources are exhausted, the central plains become desolate. 70% of ordinary people's expenditures are wasted, while 60% of the state's expenditures, such as damaged troops, idle horses, armor, arrows, crossbows, halberds, shields, and chariots and horses, are wasted. So if we focus on draining the enemy's resources, taking 1 unit of their food is equivalent to taking 20 units of our food. Taking 1 unit of their straw is equivalent to taking 20 units of our straw. Kill the enemy out of anger, seize the enemy's interests for profit. In chariot battles, if one captures more than 10 chariots, reward the first capturer, change flags, mix chariots and ride them, train soldiers and support them. This is called defeating the enemy and becoming more powerful. Therefore, victory in war was valued rather than protracted conflict. Therefore, generals who know how to use the army are the masters of the people's destiny, national security, and danger. The art of war, attack strategies. Sun Tzu said, "The method of using military force is to protect the country first." Defeat the enemy's country for the first time. Preserving the whole army is the most important. Defeating the enemy's army is the second. Preserving the whole battalion is the first, and defeating the enemy's battalion is the second. Preserving the whole squad is the most important, and defeating the enemy's squad is the second. Therefore, winning every battle is not the best skill. The best skill is to defeat the enemy without fighting. The best strategy in war is an attack plan. The next best is to attack the alliance, then the attack on the army, and the worst is to siege a city. Besieging a city should be a last resort. It took 3 months to build siege engines and prepare tools, and another 3 months to breach the defenses. If the general cannot control his anger and rushes in, losing a third of the soldiers but failing to capture the city was the disaster of a siege. Thus, those who are good at war reverse the enemy's force without fighting and capture the city without attacking it. To destroy the country without engaging in protracted conflict, one must strive to achieve their goals while maintaining their own power. Therefore, when the army is not delayed, the interests can be fully realized. This is the strategy of attack. The method of using troops is as follows. If the enemy is 10, surround them. If there are 5, attack them. If the enemy is twice our number, separate them. If the enemy is strong, engage them. If the enemy is twice our number, few. Just retreat. If the enemy is not strong, avoid them. Therefore, small enemies can be safely dealt with, while large enemies can be captured. The ruler is the backbone of the country. If the pillars are strong, the country will be strong. If the pillars are weak, the country will be weak. There are 3 reasons why rulers are troubled in military affairs: not knowing that the army cannot advance but claiming that it can advance, not knowing that the army cannot retreat but claiming that it can retreat, which is called binding the army. Not understanding the affairs of the 3 services when participating in the governance of the 3 services leads to confusion among soldiers. Not knowing the authority of the 3 services when participating in the responsibilities of the 3 services leads to suspicion among soldiers. When the 3 armies are confused and doubtful. Difficulties arise for feudal lords, which is known as chaos in the army leads to victory. Thus, there are 5 ways to understand victory. Knowing when to fight and when not to fight leads to victory. Understanding the use of numbers leads to victory. Being of one mind with superiors and subordinates will lead to victory. Anticipating the unexpected will lead to victory. And it will also lead to victory when the general is capable but does not command the troops. These 5 ways are the ways to know victory. Therefore it is said, if you know yourself and the enemy, you can fight 100 battles without danger. If you know yourself and don't know the enemy, you will win every time. If you don't know the enemy and don't know yourself, you will be in danger in every battle. Military formation. Sun Tzu said, in ancient times, those who were good at war first made themselves invincible, and then waited for the enemy to become vulnerable. Invincibility lies in oneself. And the vulnerability lies in the enemy. Therefore, a good warrior can make himself invincible, but cannot ensure that his enemy is necessarily vulnerable. Hence the saying, victory can be predicted, but cannot be forced. The invincible is the defender, the conquerable is the attacker. Defense is lacking and offense is abundant. Excellent defenders are hidden in the 9 layers of the earth, while excellent attackers are in the 9 heavens, so they can protect themselves and achieve complete victory. It is not a true excellence to think of a victory as mere public knowledge, nor is it a true excellence to win a battle and have the world call it good. Therefore, it does not require much force to lift a vellus hair. Seeing the sun and moon does not mean having keen eyesight. Hearing thunder does not mean having keen hearing. The so-called good warriors of ancient times were those who could defeat easily defeated opponents. Therefore, the victory of a good warrior has no name for wisdom, no merit for courage. There is therefore no error in their victory. There is no error in the fact that their actions must lead to victory over those who have already failed. Therefore, the good warrior is in a position of invincibility without losing focus on the enemy's defeat. Therefore, the victorious army wins first and then fights, while the losing army fights first to win. Those who are good at war cultivate principles and uphold laws. Therefore they are in control of winning and losing. The art of war, the first is measurement, the second is quantity, the third is number, the fourth is weight, and the fifth is victory. Land produces measurement, measurement produces quantity, quantity produces number, and number produces weight. Weight produces victory. Therefore, a victorious army is like an ounce weighing a pound, and a losing army is like a pound weighing an ounce. The victor's battle is like draining water from a ravine 1,000 feet deep, such is the form. The art of war. The power of the troops. Sun Tzu said, "When managing a large group, treat it as you would a small group. This is the principle of division. When fighting large groups, treat them as you would small ones. This is the principle of form and name." Among the three armies. Victory can be ensured without defeat. This is the extraordinary and conventional principle. Using troops is like throwing a stone at an egg. This is the principle of virtuality and reality. In war, people align themselves with the norm and achieve victory through the extraordinary. Therefore, people who are good at extraordinary things are as endless as heaven and earth, and as inexhaustible as rivers and seas. They end and begin again, like the sun and moon. They die and are reborn, just like the seasons. Sounds are limited to 5. These 5 sounds vary beyond human hearing. Colors are limited to 5. The variations of these 5 colors exceed full human vision. Flavors are limited to 5. The variations of these 5 flavors exceed one's full palate. The dynamics of combat are limited to the extraordinary and the routine. The variations of the extraordinary and the routine are beyond one's full exploration. The extraordinary and the ordinary arise from each other like an endless cycle. Who can fully understand it? The rapidity of the rapids. It's its momentum when it erodes stone. It's the speed of a bird of prey. Its rhythm when it tears apart. Therefore, a good fighter has dangerous momentum and short rhythm. Momentum is like a drawn bow, rhythm is like the mechanism of release. Chaotic and noisy. In battle, it is disordered but unwavering, vague and unclear, rounded but indestructible. Chaos comes from order, cowardice comes from courage, and weakness comes from strength. Order and chaos are numbers, bravery and cowardice are momentum, strength and weakness are shapes. Therefore, those who are good at manipulating their enemies will shape their actions and the enemy will surely follow. If you offer something, the enemy will definitely accept it. Drive them with profits and wait for them with an army. Therefore, a good warrior looks for an advantage in a situation rather than relying on individuals, which allows them to pick people and exploit situations. Those who take advantage of the situation in battle are like turning logs and stones. The properties of wood and stone are: when safe, they remain stationary; when dangerous, they move; when square, they stop; when round, they move. The momentum of a skilled warrior is like rolling a boulder down a 1,000-foot mountain. This is momentum. Theory of reality and illusion. Sun Tzu said, "Those who occupy the battlefield first and wait for the enemy are in a relaxed state. while those who arrive later and rush into battle are tired. Therefore, a skilled warrior is able to bring others to his side. Rather than being brought to them. It is beneficial to allow the enemy to come to you. It is harmful to prevent the enemy from reaching you. So if the enemy is in a relaxed state, you can tire them out, if they are well fed. You can make them hungry. If they feel safe, you can provoke them to act unexpectedly, to advance where they were not prepared. To travel 1,000 miles without getting tired is to move on uninhabited land. To attack and ensure success, you must attack where the enemy is defenseless. To defend and ensure safety, you must defend the place where the enemy is not attacking. Therefore, a good attacker leaves the enemy unaware of what they are defending. A good defender keeps the enemy from knowing what they are attacking. Subtle and subtle, to the point of being invisible. Mysterious and mysterious, reaching the point of being silent, thus being able to dominate the fate of the enemy. To attack without being breached. It must rush into the void, to retreat without being pursued. It must be swift and unreachable. Therefore, if I want to fight, even if the enemy has high walls and deep trenches, they must fight me where they are forced to save themselves, if I don't want to fight. Even if I draw a line and defend it, the enemy cannot engage me where they lose direction. If the enemy is tangible and I am intangible, then I am concentrated and the enemy is dispersed. I am focused as a whole. And the enemy is divided into 10, therefore, if 10 attack one, I have many, and the enemy few. If I can fight against those who are small with more, I will be limited in what I can fight against. The place where I fight is unknown, if it is unknown. Then the enemy has a lot of preparations. If the enemy's preparations are many, then I have very little to contend with. Therefore, if one prepares in advance, there will be a few who are behind. If one prepares afterward, there will be a few who are ahead. If one prepares on the left, there will be a few on the right. If one prepares on the right, there will be a few on the left. If one is prepared in every aspect, there will be a minority in every aspect. The minority are those who prepare for others. The majority are those who let others prepare for themselves. Therefore, understanding the battlefield and the days of the battle can make it possible to meet in battle even though we are thousands of miles apart. If a person does not know the battlefield or the day of the battle, then the left cannot save the right cannot save the left, the front cannot save the back, and the back cannot save the front, let alone those who are dozens of miles away. Or what about those who are within a few miles? In my opinion, although the you people have many soldiers, what is the benefit of victory or defeat? Therefore, some people say, victory is achievable. Although there are many enemies, you can fight them without engaging them. Therefore, through strategy, one can understand the calculation of gains and losses. Through action, one can know the principles of movement and stillness. Through shaping, one can understand the place of life and death. Through confrontation, one can know the realm of profit and loss. Therefore, The final form of military strategy reached the point of intangibility. When invisible, even the depths cannot be glimpsed, and the wise cannot make plans. Victory through formation and positioning against the multitude beyond comprehension. Everyone knows the form by which I achieve victory, but no one knows the form by which I secure it. Therefore, their victories are not repeated and respond to form in infinity. An army is like water, the form of water avoids highs and flows low. The shape of the army avoids reality and attacks virtuality. The water flows according to the terrain, and the army follows the enemy to win. Therefore, an army has no fixed form, and water has no fixed shape. People who can change according to their enemies and achieve victory are called gods. Therefore, the 5 elements have no constant victory, the 4 seasons have no constant position, the sun is short and long, the moon is alive and dead. Military Conflict Chapter. Sun Tzu said, "In all military operations, the commander-in-chief accepts the orders of the ruler to assemble the army and make peace before taking action." Nothing is more difficult than military conflict. The difficulty in military conflict is to turn indirect into direct, and to see trouble as benefit. Thus, by taking the long way around and tempting latecomers with benefits, they can catch up with early arrivals. This is the strategy of understanding indirect and direct methods. Armies compete for profit, armies compete for danger. If an army is mobilized to fight for interests, it will not succeed, if it is left to fight for interests. Supplies will be abandoned. Therefore, roll up your armor, charge day and night, quicken your pace, and if you fight for the advantage within 100 miles, they will capture 3 generals, the strong in front and the tired behind, arriving in 11 days. If the interests are fought for within 50 miles, they will defeat the general in charge and arrive in half the time. If the interests are fought for within 30 miles, they will arrive in 2/3 of the time. Therefore, an army without supplies will perish. Without food one will perish, without provisions one will perish. Therefore, those who did not understand the strategy of feudal lords could not foresee alliances. Those who did not understand the terrain of mountains, forests, obstacles, and swamps could not march. Those who don't use local guides don't get the advantage. Therefore, soldiers are established through deception, driven by interests, and transformed through divisions and unions. Therefore, they are as fast as the wind, as slow as the forest, as sudden as the fire, as still as the mountain, and as imperceptible as the shadow. Move like thunder. They plundered the countryside, divided the land for profit, seized power and acted. He who first understands indirect and direct strategies will win. This is how military competition works. The Art of War and Politics states, when words fail, we use drums. When sight fails, we use flags. The role of drums and flags is to unify the senses of the people. When the people are united, the brave cannot advance alone, and the timid cannot retreat alone. This is the principle of utilizing the masses. Therefore, in night battles, drums are beaten frequently, while in day battles, flags are numerous to change the perception of the people. The three armies can be deprived of their spirit, and the general can be deprived of his heart. Therefore, the momentum in the morning is sharp. The momentum slows down during the day and returns in the evening. Those who are good at using troops avoid the sharp momentum and attack the slow return. This is the spirit of management. Treat chaos with order, deal with hustle and bustle with calm. This is to manage the heart. Approach the near with distance. Rest from work, satisfy hunger with fullness. This is the power of stewardship. Don't invite the banner of justice, don't attack the grand formation. That's what managing change is. The principle of using troops is, do not march towards the high ridge, and do not march against the hills. Do not follow a false retreat, do not attack with elite soldiers, do not allow troops to be lured by bait, do not hinder the returning army, do not leave gaps in the besieged army, and do not put pressure on the desperate enemy. These are the principles of war. 9 Turns Chapter. Sun Tzu said, in all military operations, generals must accept orders from rulers, assemble troops, and integrate forces. You should not camp on unfavorable terrain. You should not gather on crossroads. You should not linger in desperate situations. In a besieged area, you must strategize. In a life-or-death situation, you must fight. There are routes that should not be taken, armies that should not be engaged, cities that should not be attacked, territories that should not be fought for, and orders from rulers that should not be followed. Therefore, those who understand the advantages of 9 changes know how to use troops. Those who do not understand the advantages of 9 changes cannot obtain the advantage of geographical location even if they understand the terrain. Those who command the army without understanding the skills of 9 changes. Even if you know the 5 strengths, you won't be able to access and exploit them. Therefore, the wise man's considerations must mix benefits and harms, mixing benefits to ensure credibility and harms to find solutions. Therefore, those who conquer feudal lords do so through harm, those who hire feudal lords do so through work, and those who approach feudal lords do so through benefits. Therefore, in the art of war, do not rely on them not coming. Rather rely on our ability to prepare, not rely on them not attacking, but rely on our ability to withstand attacks. There will be 5 dangers. Certain death may lead to killing, certain survival may lead to capture, and anger may lead to humiliation. Integrity can lead to disgrace, love for people can lead to trouble. These 5 are all mistakes that lead to war disasters. The destruction of armies and the death of generals must be based on these 5 dangers. They cannot be ignored. Marching geography. Sun Tzu said, in all military engagements, cut off mountains, rely on valleys, observe favorable highlands, and avoid fighting in difficult-to-climb places. This is the mountain army. When cutting off the water source, you must stay away from the water source, if the enemy comes from the water. Do not meet the enemy in the water, but let them pass halfway before attacking, which is more advantageous. Those who want to fight should not approach the water to meet the enemy. observe the favorable high ground and do not meet the current. This is the water army. When cutting off a swamp, you must leave quickly. No lingering. If an army fights in a swamp, it must rely on water and grass while turning its back on trees. This is a swamp army. Flat ground is easy to occupy, with high ground on the right and rear, death in front and life in the rear. This is the flat ground army. These four military advantages are the reasons why Huang Di was able to defeat the four emperors. All armies love the highlands, despise the lowlands, value the sunny side and ignore the dark side, nurturing life while occupying solid ground. An army free from 100 diseases was considered victorious. Hills and embankments must be on the sunny side, with the right side protected. This is the advantage of the troops, thanks to the terrain. Water foam rolls when it rains. People wanting to cross the river should wait until the water calms down. No matter where there are deep ditches, patios, sky prisons, sky nets, sky traps or sky gaps, they must be avoided urgently and do not get close. I keep my distance while the enemy approaches. I advance while the enemy retreats. In military operations, there are dangers such as swamps, wells, reeds, mountains, and forests. These areas must be carefully investigated as they may be the site of an ambush. Close and quiet people rely on their strengths. People who stay away and challenge want others to progress. What they easily take advantage of is profit. When many trees move, it means something is coming. When many grasses are blocked, it implies doubt. When birds take off, it means lurking. When the beast is frightened, it means overturning. When the dust rises high and sharp, it means the arrival of vehicles. When the dust is low and wide, it implies the flow of people. When the dust is scattered and extended, it means gathering firewood. When the dust is sparse and when it comes and goes, means military activity. Those who speak humbly but well prepared are moving forward. Those who speak forcefully but push forward are retreating. Those who travel light and sideways are lining up. Those seeking peace without an agreement are plotting. Those rushing to deploy troops and vehicles are setting deadlines. Those who advance and retreat simultaneously are seducing. Those who hold the staff are hungry. Those who draw water first are thirsty. Those who see benefits but do not move forward are tired. The gathering of birds indicates emptiness. The call at night indicates fear. Military turmoil indicates that the general is not decisive. Waving flags indicate confusion. Angry officials are tired. Soldiers who eat food and meat without restraint and do not return to the camp are desperate. People who speak softly and slowly with others lose the crowd. Frequent rewards indicate distress. Frequent punishments indicate hardship. Those who first engage in violence and then fear the crowd are at their lowest. Those who come to apologize want to rest. If soldiers meet in anger and do not fight or separate for a long time, they must be observed carefully. An army does not benefit from numbers. It is enough that there is no military progress. It is enough to combine forces, assess the enemy and capture the enemy. Those who are careless and easily defeated are bound to be captured by others. If you punish those who have not yet formed a close attachment, they will not obey. If they don't obey, it's difficult to use. This will not be effective if it punishes those who have formed close attachments and therefore they cannot be used. Therefore, it should be governed by culture and unified by military force. This is called ensuring success. If you educate the people through virtuous governance, the people will obey. If you do not educate the people through virtuous governance, the people will not obey. Those who govern with virtue will gain the support of the masses. Topography. Sun Tzu said, there are 6 types of terrain: passable, suspended, bracing, narrow, dangerous and remote. If I can go there, they can also come here. This is called passage. In the terrain of passage, the high ground should be occupied first and the supply route ensured, which is beneficial to the battle. It would be nice if I could go there, but it would be difficult to go back. This is called hanging in the air. In the hanging terrain, if the enemy is not prepared, you can surprise and defeat them. If the enemy is prepared, you can surprise but cannot win, and it will be difficult to get back, which is disadvantageous. If I make a surprise attack, it will be detrimental to both parties. This is called support. In supported terrain, although the enemy may benefit, I cannot make a surprise attack. It is advantageous to lure them out and attack when they are partially out. In narrow terrain, I must occupy it first and make sure it is full to wait for the enemy. If the enemy occupies it first, do not engage when it is full, but you can engage when it is not full. In dangerous terrain I must first capture and ensure I hold the high ground to await the enemy. If the enemy captures it first, they should be lured out without engaging in combat. In remote terrain, the forces are equal, it is difficult to challenge, and the combat is at a disadvantage. These 6 terrains are the principles of the land. Generals cannot ignore them. So in battle, there are those who escape, those who relax, those who are trapped, those who collapse, those who are confused, and those who retreat. These 6 situations are not natural disasters, but the result of mistakes. When the strength is equal and one side fights 10, it is called fleeing. When the soldiers are strong and the officers are weak, it is called slacking. When the officers are strong and the soldiers are weak, it is called being trapped. When the senior officers are angry and disobey, and fight alone when facing the enemy, without knowing their own abilities, it is called a breakdown. When the officers are weak and lax, their teachings are unclear, the soldiers are inconsistent, and the troops are arranged in a chaotic manner, it is called a breakdown. For chaos. When the commander cannot judge the enemy's situation, the minority is against the majority, the strong is against the weak, and there is no choice of weapons, it is called retreat. These 6 situations are all paths to failure, commanders cannot ignore them. Terrain is an aid to the army. Assess the enemy and determine victory. Calculating danger and distance is the way of a general. Those who understand this and engage in the battle will surely win. Those who do not understand this and engage in the battle will surely lose. Therefore, In war, victory is crucial. If the leader says that a war should not be fought, then the war can be fought. If the path to war does not lead to victory but the leader insists on fighting, then the war can be avoided. Therefore, reputation cannot be pursued in offense. Nor can one evade responsibility and retreat. Only the people need to be protected, and interests should be aligned with those of the leaders, for they are the country's precious asset. Treat your soldiers like babies so they can ride with you through deep currents. Treat your soldiers as beloved sons so they can live and die with you. If they are stupid but unable to obey, pampered but unable to command, chaotic but unable to govern, they are like spoiled children who cannot be exploited. Know yourself and your enemy. If you know the heaven and the earth, you will never be tired of 100 battles. Kyushu Chapter. Sun Tzu said, "In the art of war, there are loose ground, light ground, contested ground, intersection ground, passage ground, heavy ground, enclosed ground, surrounded ground and dead ground." When princes fight in their own territory, this is called scattered land. If you enter someone else's territory but don't go deep, that's light ground. If I make a profit, it's good for me. If they make a profit, it's good for them. It's a fight for land. If I can go and they can come, that's jouty. In the territory of the princes. The first to arrive and gain public support was the passage area. If you go deep into other people's territory and there are many cities behind it, it is important territory. Pass through mountains, forests, dangerous obstacles and swamps. All difficult paths are enclosed. If the entry road is narrow and the return journey is tortuous, and the enemy is few but we are numerous, then it is an encirclement. If fast fighting leads to survival and slow fighting leads to destruction, that's the place to die. Thus, on the scattered ground, there was no fighting. On easy ground, there is no pause. On contested ground, there is no attack. On intersecting ground, there is no isolation. On passage ground, there is convergence. On heavy ground, there is plunder. On encircled ground, there is maneuvering. And on the dead ground, there is fighting. The so-called masters of ancient warfare are those who were able to render enemies unable to communicate with each other, regardless of numbers, status, or rank. They could cause armies to scatter rather than gather, able to combine forces without coordination. They act and it is advantageous and stop when it is not. If asked, "What should you do when the enemy is menacing and well organized?" the answer is, first take what they hold dear, and then they will obey. The essence of military strategy is to move quickly, take advantage of the enemy's unpreparedness, and launch attacks where they are least alert. The way of being a guest, when going deep, become professional and the host cannot cope, to pounce in the fields of abundance. The three armies have enough food, cultivate it carefully without exhausting it, accumulate energy and strength, and strategize to deal with unpredictable situations. When abandoned with nowhere to go, they do not flinch even in death. In death they cannot escape. Scholars try their best. Soldiers are not afraid when they are in deep trouble. They are steadfast when they have nowhere to go. When deep, they are restrained. When unavoidable, they fight. Therefore, their armies were untrained but alert. Unsought but gained, unfettered but connected, undirected but trusted, omens forbidden, doubts removed, until death has nowhere to go. Our soldiers have no extra wealth, not out of greed, no extra lives. Not out of a desire for longevity. On the day when the marching order was given, the sitting soldiers' collars were soaked with tears. Tears streamed down the cheeks of the lying soldier. This is the courage of Zhu Hegui when he is abandoned with nowhere to go. Therefore, people who are good at war are like quick snakes. Quick snakes are the snakes of Changshan. If you hit the head, the tail will come. If you hit the tail, the head will come. If you hit the middle, both the head and the tail will come. Dare I ask, can the military use it like a velociraptor? Someone said, yes. The Wu and Yu people hated each other, but when they were in the same boat and encountered wind and waves, they helped each other like left and right hands. Therefore, burying a horse wheel is not something to rely on, when brave men band together. This is the way to govern. A combination of hardness and softness is the principle of the land. Therefore, those who are good at war cooperate as one unless absolutely necessary. The affairs of generals, tranquility leads to subtlety, justice leads to state governance. It can dull the ears and eyes of soldiers and make them ignorant. Simplify their tasks and change their strategies so that people remain unconscious. Change their residences and take zigzag paths so that people cannot think. When a commander sets a date, it's like climbing with the ladder removed. When the commander penetrates deep into the territory of a feudal lord and reveals his plans, burning ships and breaking boilers like a herd of sheep, pushing them forward and pulling them backward, no one knows where they are going. A large number of the three armies gathered. Throw yourself into danger, that's what a general does. Kyushu's changes, flexible advantages, and human principles cannot be ignored. How to be a guest: when in depth, focus; when in shallowness, disperse. Those who leave their country and cross borders to teach are in a desperate situation. Those who reach all directions are in the key points of communication. Those who go deep are in important places. Those who go in shallowly are in light places. Those who stray from the border are in the siege zone. Those who have nowhere to go are in the dead zone. Therefore, where they are scattered, I will unify my intentions. Where there is light, I will bring them together. Where there is controversy, I will pursue their consequences. Where they meet, I will guard their defenses. On the thoroughfares, I will strengthen their connections. Where they are burdened, I will continue their maintenance. Where they are ruined, I will advance their paths. In besieged places, I will plug their gaps. In desperate places, I will show them the way to survive. The essence of military strategy is to defend when surrounded, fight only when necessary, and follow when circumstances warrant. Therefore, those who do not understand the plans of feudal lords cannot participate in alliances. Those who are not familiar with mountain forests, obstacles, and swamp terrain cannot march. Those who do not use local guides cannot obtain geographical advantages. 4 or 5 elements are not considered as one. They are not the tactics of an overlord. When overlords attack great powers, their armies cannot muster. When they exert pressure on their enemies, their alliances cannot unite. Therefore, they do not fight for alliances in the world and do not cultivate power in the world. Trust their own interests and exert force on their enemies so that their cities can be captured and their countries destroyed. They ignore the law and impose rewards, issue orders without governance, and treat the 3 armed forces as one person. Offend them with affairs. Don't tell them with words, offend them with benefits, don't tell them with harm. Throw it into a place from which it cannot return and it will survive. Trap it in a place of death and it will survive. When the masses are trapped in harm's way, only then can they achieve victory or defeat. The key to war is understanding the enemy's intentions, aligning with them, and attacking from a distance to defeat them. This is called the superior ability to succeed. In the days of political appointments, barriers were broken down and no messengers were allowed to pass. Strict measures were taken to punish those involved in the halls of power. When the enemy opens or closes, you must move in quickly. Prioritize what you love and set a date wisely. Follow the enemy's movements to determine the timing of the battle. So initially behave like a virgin. When the enemy is open, then act like a running rabbit so that the enemy cannot resist. Fire attack. Sun Tzu said, there are 5 types of fire attacks. The first is the fireman, the second is the fire accumulation, the third is the train, the fourth is the fire store, and the fifth is the fire team. Fire must be used for a reason. Fireworks must be prepared in advance. There is a time to start a fire, and there is a time to start a fire. The timing refers to the dryness of the weather, the day refers to the moon in the bucket, wall, wing. When the car is in these 4 positions, all 4 constellations indicate days when the wind rises. In all fire attacks, reactions must be made according to the changes of the 5 fires. If the fire originates from the inside, it should be dealt with from the outside as soon as possible. If the fire appears when the troops are quiet, then wait without attacking, assess the intensity of the fire, and if it is strong, follow it. If it is weak, do not pursue it. Fire can be generated externally without waiting for internal conditions and should be initiated at the appropriate time. If the fire is upwind, do not attack downwind. If there are strong winds during the day, the wind will stop at night. All armies must understand the changes of the 5 fires and take precautions against them in numbers. Thus, he who assists in the attack of fire is wise, and he who assists in the attack of water is powerful. Water can be cut off, but it cannot be taken away. Winning battles and capturing territory without consolidating the gains is disastrous and is known as wasteful retention. Therefore, some people say, wise rulers consider this, and good generals correct it. They do not act for profit, do not use force when there is no gain, and do not go to war when there is no danger. A ruler should not be angry when he recruits troops, nor a general should be resentful when he launches a battle. They should act when it is advantageous and restrain when it is not. Anger can turn to joy, resentment to pleasure. A nation in decline cannot recover, and the dead cannot rise again. Therefore, wise rulers are cautious and good generals are vigilant. This is how you keep your country and your military safe. Use of time meter. Sun Tzu said, generally speaking, when 100,000 troops are mobilized and marched thousands of miles, the expenditure of the people and the country reaches 1,000 taels of gold every day. Internal and external turmoil causes the roads to be neglected. There are 700,000 households unable to manage their own affairs. It is the height of inhumanity to defend for years in order to win a single day's victory, to value title and wealth more than 100 taels of gold, and to remain ignorant of the enemy's condition. Such a person is not a true commander, nor a good assistant to the ruler, nor the master of victory. Therefore, wise rulers and capable generals are able to mobilize and defeat others, achieving success through the masses. They are visionaries. Foresight cannot come from inspiration, imitation of events, or verification by measurement. It must come from an understanding of the enemy's situation. There are 5 types of spies: cause spies, insider spies, reverse spies, dead spies, and living spies. All 5 types exist, and no one knows their methods. These are called the mysterious records, the treasures of the sovereign. The reason spies are based on fellow countrymen is used. Insider spies are based on official use. Reverse espionage is based on enemy use. Dead spies are meant to deceive matters on the outside. Let our spies know and pass information to the enemy. Living spies are there to fight back and take revenge. Hence, in military affairs, nothing is closer than a spy, no reward is more generous, and nothing is more secret than a spy. Only the wisdom of the wise can use spies, and only benevolence and righteousness can command them. Only subtlety can achieve the essence of espionage. How subtle! How subtle! There is nothing that does not depend on spies. Only subtlety can achieve the essence of espionage. How subtle! How subtle! There is nothing that does not depend on spies. If a spy's affairs have not yet been revealed, the person who first hears about them, whether the spy or the person to whom they are informed, all will die. No matter where an army wishes to attack, no matter where a city wishes to attack, no matter whom a people wishes to kill, it must first know the names of its defenders, assistants, messengers, gatekeepers, and attendants, so that we can make inquiries through spies. In order to create discord among enemies, it must be exploited, directed, and then abandoned. Therefore, counterintelligence can be exploited. It can be understood from this. Local and internal espionage can be used. Therefore, death espionage is known to be a means of deception that can be used to mislead enemies. From this point, it was understood that live espionage could be used as planned. The affairs of the 5 espionage activities must be understood by leaders, and this knowledge must be based on counterintelligence. Therefore, counterintelligence cannot be ignored. In ancient times, when the Yin dynasty rose, Yi was in the Xia dynasty. When the Zhou dynasty rose, Luya was in the Yin dynasty. Therefore, only smart rulers and capable generals who can use the wisdom of wise men as intermediaries can